Go further with the American Express Business Gold Card. Earn 3 times membership rewards points on flights and prepaid hotels when you book through AmexTravel.com. Whether your destination is a business conference or a client meeting, your purchases will help you earn more points for future trips. Experience more on your travels with Amex Business Gold. Terms apply. Learn more at americanexpress.com/business-gold. Amex Business Gold Card. Built for business by American Express.
It's time for basketball, and Uber Eats is dropping deals on game day favorites to keep you locked in on the action. Like when you're craving a buzzer beater, but also buffalo wings. Or when an upset makes you want to ugly cry into a pizza. And right now, Uber Eats has game day deals from Burger King, Buffalo Wild Wings, KFC, and hundreds more local favorites. So you can keep your eyes on the ball and your hands on a burger. Order now, only on Uber Eats. Product availability varies by region. See app for details.
I am convinced that vision solves everything. And I know that's a bold statement, that just works for us. Vision solves everything. So, yes, when you're rebuilding, there's going to be pushback. There's going to be some people who, and for whatever reason, not wrong, just different, just don't buy in. But if you have a clear vision and say, this is how we're making decisions, this is how we're going to develop our offensive plan.
All right, today we are excited to have Coach Andrew DiDonato on the Turnaround Podcast. Before we get started, I want to take a moment to thank Mr. Keith Grabowski from the Coaching Coordinator Podcast for allowing me to host this series. Coach DiDonato has been at the forefront of an amazing turnaround at Grove City. He inherited an 0-20 team after a 2-year transition period. He then proceeded to lead them to 6 straight seasons of 8 wins or more. He secured the school's first ever postseason victory in 2018 and achieved the school's first ever 10-win season in 2023, as well as securing the school's first ever NCAA Division III playoff victory.
My dad works in B2B marketing. He came by my school for career day and said he was a big ROAS man. Then he told everyone how much he loved calculating his return on ad spend. My friends still laugh at me to this day.
Not everyone gets B2B, but with LinkedIn, you'll be able to reach people who do. Get a $100 credit on your next ad campaign. Go to linkedin.com/results to claim your credit. That's linkedin.com/results. Terms and conditions apply. LinkedIn, the place to be, to be.
Every cup of Nespresso coffee is an invitation to transform your morning routine into a ritual you can treasure each and every day. Using the Virtuo Pop, a simple touch of the button freshly brews bold aromas and a rich, velvety crema layer for delicious cafe-quality coffee at home. Whether you enjoy your coffee hot or over ice, every sip, every morning is unforgettable. Nothing tastes like Nespresso coffee. Visit Nespresso.com or our app to explore our full range of easy-to-use machines and coffees not found anywhere else.
Coach, it's such a pleasure to have you on the podcast. Thank you for joining us.
It's an honor to be on here. Appreciate the work you all do and just excited to be with you.
Excellent, Coach. Well, let's just get started right off the bat, Coach. What was the overall culture and mindset of the team when you arrived?
Great question. Grove City is a special place. I went here, my brother went here, and the man I replaced was the coach I played for, a mentor of mine, and he had been here over 30 years as head coach. And fortunately, it's a great place, great school. He did so many great things in investing and developing young men that, I knew what I was coming into was to a great place. As for the team, we hadn't had a win in a couple of years. So especially with a young first-time head coach, I think there was a lot of uncertainty. And, I think ultimately when you come off an 0-10 season, it's easy to focus on the circumstance. And I would say probably the biggest challenge in the overall mindset for the guys was a little bit too enamored with the circumstance we were in at the time. And that's why the first thing we talked about in our first meeting was focus on your vision, not your circumstance. We got a very clear vision for where we wanted to go. And we said, focus on your vision, not your circumstance. So I'd say the mindset was the biggest challenge with the mindset, I would say, was the circumstance wasn't optimal and a little bit too consumed with that. And, that was the biggest thing we had to face as far as what we were coming into at the beginning.
Love that, Coach. And I particularly love the way that you started off your kickoff meeting with your team. And we spoke about this previously, but the way that you cast your vision was so unique. And I just want us to walk our listeners through what you did. I think this is pivotal for any coach taking over a program. You don't have to do it the way you did it, but the way that you did it, I think really kind of drove the message home. I believe in this and we're going to do it. So please share if you don't mind.
Yeah, August 13th, 2016, my first meeting as head coach, and walked into an auditorium. There's about over 100 people in the room. And what I did, I opened the doors, I walked in, and the first words out of my mouth were this: to glorify God in the pursuit of earning a degree, building lasting relationships, and competing for PAC championships. I then proceeded to walk up and down the stairs for 5 straight minutes, repeating that phrase: to glorify God in the pursuit of earning a degree, building lasting relationships, and competing for PAC championships. And that was the key. I mentioned already, focus on your vision, not your circumstance. I told the story of David and Goliath, and my main takeaway from that story was every other person in the army was focused on Goliath. David made 11 statements, and he was 9 of them about God, 2 about Goliath. I said he was focused on his vision 4 times as much as the circumstance in front of him. And that's how we started our meeting. But I think starting our meeting by spending 5 minutes just continuing to pound our vision statement, I just showed the guys that, hey, when we say vision, it's not just going to be something we put on a wall. It's literally going to be who we are and drive every decision that we're going to make. So yeah, I did start off my first meeting repeating the same phrase for 5 minutes, but that was the goal we had, was to get everyone to start focusing on the vision and not the circumstance.
Love that. I've been at the forefront of 2 turnarounds, and I think it's so hard when you start to display a new vision that the players will be probably skeptical, but there is definitely some excitement. They want to see something new. And I think that room to see the faces must have been so interesting. So Coach, you then disclose that vision and then proceed to go yet again 0-10 in year 1. Talk about how you were able to navigate that first year while still making pivotal bricks towards your foundation.
Yeah, well, I think important thing in that first meeting, we talked about 3 things: vision, process, love. So I already shared how I came out of the gate talking about here's the vision, which ended with compete for PAC championships. So for anyone not aware, PAC stands for our conference, the President's Athletic Conference. There's 11 teams in our league. Obviously we being 0-10, we had spent a few years at number 11 there at the bottom. But I said to guys, the vision's to get to number 1. And I told them specifically, I said, vision to us is more about who we are and where we're going. I say vision is a clear target of who I am. And what I mean by that is every decision I make is going to be, how do we compete with the top teams in the PAC? Meaning we don't care about the top 5 teams in the country. We don't care about everyone in the nation. We have a school in a neighboring state that's a top 5 team every year. I said, I'm not looking at anything they're doing. I said, when we look at strength and conditioning, recruiting, how we play offense, defense, special teams, we're only asking ourselves, look at the other 10 teams in this league and figure out how can we start to compete with them in recruiting or in strength and conditioning. Yeah. So after vision, I said, guys, it's going to be a process. See a little, see a lot, see a lot, see nothing. See a little, see a lot, see a lot, see nothing. Guys, don't look at everything we got to do to compete with these teams. Brick by brick, just see a little. Let's lay 1 brick today. What's one area when we find it that we can compete with teams in this league in this area? And then love, I said, look, seniors, you're probably not going to win a PAC championship. I did say that, which I don't know if that's the best thing to do, but I said, look, we know that this is going to be an infinite game, not a finite game. And what I meant by that is it's not about whether we win a PAC title in 2016 or not. I don't know how many bricks this is going to take. My job's to be faithful and lay 1 brick each day in closing this gap. So that's the tone we set. And just to give you a picture of how our guys, we were very blessed to have enough guys buy into this. I think I shared this with you, but my first year, 2016, I had a captain, Brett Pinson, who transferred in after his freshman year. His college record was the 3-0-10 seasons. It was 0-30 is his college football record. But it's his senior year. We're 0-9. He's 0-29 for his career. We're picked to lose again in the last week. And it's our Monday meeting. And I said, Brett, why are you going to practice today? He said, compete for PAC championships. And most people would probably think, that's nuts. He's 0-9. He can't win a PAC title. But what Brett understood was he was sowing seed that others would reap the fruit of. And he was willing to do that. And that's what Vision Process Love did to us. It said, this is the vision. We don't know how long it's going to take. Let's just be faithful and laying one brick every day. Process Love. If enough of us buy into that mindset, special things will happen. And fortunately, we had enough guys in that first year buy into that message.
That's awesome, Coach. I think Coach Matt Campbell at Iowa State, I don't know if you remember his quote, but you can love the process, or you need to love the process. You just never know when it will love you back. You just never know when. And I think that is so neat the way that you said it is, hey, it's not going to happen in your time, but just hang on and establish the culture that we're going to build this on. And I think that's so awesome. And I know you had also shared with me that those guys, I think Brett in particular, reached out years later, right? About when you guys won that championship.
Yeah, in 2023. So this journey from, like I said, we had started, you had mentioned it, hadn't won a game in 3 years. So here we are in 16. We hadn't won a game as a program since 2013. It took 7.2 years to win that PAC championship. But when we won that PAC championship in 2023, we went 10-0. I got so many messages, Coach, we did it. Coach, we won the PAC. And it was a bunch of those guys from 16 to 19 because they understood what brick by brick. And I'll say this, in our team room, there is a brick with the last name of every guy that's played here since the beginning. So when we sit and watch film, I mentioned Brett Pinson. I see that Pinson brick. I see that Scholes brick, that Gustafson brick. Those are all guys before COVID that laid bricks here so that we could, win the PAC title. Actually, in our team room, on one side is all these bricks of guys who've built here, and on the other is the picture of the PAC championship. And it's just a visual for our guys that the only reason you see all those smiles in that PAC title picture is because all those bricks that were laid to make it possible. That is why we can say, hey, Brett Pinson, you are a PAC champion, because it took every one of those bricks and that foundation, for that other picture to happen. So, that's the mindset we want guys to have. And they truly know that it took every one of us to win that title in 23.
That's so neat. I mean, when people establish visions, I think, you have to believe in it, but it is a dream, right? You're sitting there and you're like, I'm dreaming and I'm hoping that we can get to this place. You don't know if it's for sure going to happen, but the fact that you were so intentional that you were starting to get guys to sign bricks that long ago, man, it just speaks to the conviction that you had with your program and where you guys were going. I love that, Coach. I'm going to go back to that because you also told a story of when you knew what your vision was going to be for a program, and it started way before that first season. Please share what happened with your wife, Coach, if you don't mind.
Yeah. So back in 2010, I heard a man named Pat Williams speak. Just an incredible man. He founded the Orlando Magic NBA basketball franchise in the mid-1980s, the general manager for the Orlando Magic, has read over 600 books on leadership, traveled the country speaking on leadership. On my desk, on my table over here, I have his book, Leadership Excellence. It's my favorite leadership book written by Pat Williams. But in 2010, I was in the audience hearing him speak, and he said this: view yourself as a leader, prepare to be a leader. When a leadership opportunity comes, take it. View yourself as a leader, prepare to be a leader. When a leadership opportunity comes, take it. And then a few years later, I heard a man who had done work with professional teams, college football teams, and he talked about vision, process, love. And then I'm reading my Bible and I see, wow, there's Moses, vision, process, love. David, vision, process, love. And going back to Pat Williams, who said, view yourself as a leader, prepare to be a leader. And when a leadership opportunity comes, take it. And vision, process, love. Kevin Elko is a man who I'd first heard those terms, vision, process, love. So I always like to mention that as well. View yourself as a leader, prepare to be a leader. When a leadership opportunity comes, take it. I told my wife, hey, this vision, process, love stuff's so amazing. If I'm ever a head coach or in a managerial or leadership role, whatever it might be, I said, I'm going to build something around vision, process, love. My wife and I saw the impact it had on our faith, having a clear vision, letting that drive the process. And I told her, I said, Pat said to prepare to be a leader. And I already know if I'm a head coach, it's going to be all about vision, process, love. So that's the backstory. And that's why on August 13th, 2016, I got to share something I had already been studying for 5 or 6 years. And to me, that was key in getting this thing going.
Yeah, that's so awesome. Coach, go back to those first 2 years, because we're going to get into when it really kind of started to turn. But what was it like to turn that culture around? Did you get pushback from the players? How did you handle that pushback? Was there norms and standards that you had to implement right away in order to kind of set that foundation? How did you go about specifically installing your culture, and did you receive feedback as you were going along?
Yeah, such a great question. I am convinced, and everybody, I always say not wrong, just different. There's many ways to go about this, but whatever you do, you have to be convicted strongly of it. And I am convinced that vision solves everything. And I know that's a bold statement. That just works for us. Vision solves everything. So, yes, when you're rebuilding, there's going to be pushback. There's going to be some people who, and for whatever reason, not wrong, just different, just don't buy in. But if you have a clear vision and say, this is how we're making decisions, this is how we're going to develop our offensive plan, well, it becomes very clear that people are bought into the vision. And I gave example of some of those guys in 2016, they're going to be bought in. And if others aren't, it's going to make it easier for them. And it might be for good reasons to walk away. And that's what we saw, because we were so clear in what we were going to do and how we were going to get there. So those first 2 years, there was, a little bit of pushback there. And we went through that in 16, 17. But what vision, why I say it solves everything. Everybody I hired and everybody we recruited in 16, I would put that vision statement up and explain very clearly, hey, there's 4 parts to this. Here's how we're going to go about it, and make sure that they're in to say, yes, I'm on board, knowing that this is how we're going to make decisions and move forward. So I think what was key was everybody who was coming into the program, the vision made it very, very clear how we were going to operate, make decisions. For coaches developing offense and defensive schemes of who we're going to be, they know it's going to flow from the vision of what we can be best at in the PAC. And so I think a couple things there. One, made people see, do I want to be a part of this or not? Because the vision was so clear. And then bringing new people in, it made sure that, hey, we all know with clear expectation how we're going to make decisions and operate here. And I think those are the two ways that it helped us overcome some of those challenges that anyone's going to go through, like we did in 16 and 17.
Yeah, I love that. And Coach, I think you did something that is so unique, at least that I've heard in taking over a program. I don't know where you got this from. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe a lot of people do this, but you went in and you kind of said, hey, we're going to throw literally everything against the wall and we're going to find out what sticks schematically.
Yeah.
And I thought that was fascinating because, as a coach, I feel like we maybe get married to what we do best and we kind of try to impose that on our team. Whereas you said, no, we're going to find out what you guys do best. And then we're going to start to build on that. Take us through perhaps what that process was like and where did you get that from? Why did that happen?
Yeah. So I was a business background. It was transformational for me to read a book titled Good to Great by Jim Collins, studying these companies that were average or good and jumped to greatness. Within that, he had developed what's called the Hedgehog concept. And he said, the best companies are able to answer 3 questions. What can we be the best at? What are we passionate about? And what drives our economic engine, or what's working? So what can we be best at? What are we passionate about, and what's working? So for me, for example, I in the past would maybe have run a lot of power read, but if inside zone's what I'm best at and I'm passionate about running all this gap scheme stuff, there's going to be a disconnect there, right? I need to know whatever we can be best in the PAC at, because that's the program vision. That's what I need to be passionate about. And I need to have some proof that it works. Well, here's the problem. We're 0-10, and at the time we were last in the league in total offense and scoring offense. If I would have come in and said, hey guys, this is what we're best at, of course I would have been just doing what I did in the past and would have been making it up because I didn't have any proof. So what I decided in 2016, 17, we ran everything. You name it. I talk about offense. I'll just use that as an example because I run the O, but it's a picture of how we did every area of the program. We ran every run scheme you could think of in 16 and 17. We ran everything. And the goal was, let's find what we can be best at. And it was actually on September 24th, 2018. where it took almost 3 years, but we found that hedgehog. We found what we're best at. We got rid of anything that we couldn't be best at, and we committed to a few things. But in order to be able to do that in 18, we had to gather data. And in order to do that, we needed to try everything in 16 and 17. And that's what helped us have enough data from all those games to say, hey, these are the schemes we can be best at. So let's forget about everything else and just do these. So to your question, but it had to start with running everything. So that's kind of how we did it. And unfortunately, by the way, 2018, we finished that year. We were 1-3 when we introduced our offensive vision based off that hedgehog. We finished that season going 7-0 to finish the rest of that season. So 1-3, we finished 7-0, and that was the first postseason win in school history. To me, that was the power of hedgehog, finding what you're best at, only doing what you're best at, but needing to build a history of running everything helped us get to that point.
That's fantastic, Coach.
Hey, what's up, guys? I'm Fred Warner, linebacker for the San Francisco 49ers. Abercrombie has the new suits you need, plus all the collared shirts to go with them. The Abercrombie & Fitch Collins suit is the only suit you'll ever need for any occasion. Available in slim, classic, and athletic. Pair with a collared classic. Go with a soft, easy-to-wear sweater polo or a comfortable long-sleeve shirt. With so many different fits and fabrics, you can make a look that's completely your own. Add the Abercrombie & Fitch Collins suit and new collared shirts to every occasion this season. Shop online or in store.
Let's talk now about the turnaround in 2018 when you were able to take that jump. What was that season like? And please share. I think it's so pivotal to where we're going to go later in the podcast, but please share what those achievements in 2018 did for you and for your team and for your community.
Yeah, I mean, it was special. I mean, I kind of started answering the last question. Fortunately, for our staff, I'll start there. When we had found that hedgehog, that offensive vision, and said, you know what, kind of running everything, going with this approach, it actually did lead to us finding this offensive vision, and we ended up jumping to be a top 3 offense that year. So the first thing going 8-3 in 2018 did was, really showed us that vision and what we were doing was helping us figure out who we are on offense, defense, etc. But I think for our whole campus community, and that was the first postseason win in school history.
How long you guys have been around, Coach?
So that was the first postseason win in 125 years of football at the time. Whenever you get to do something like that, it's pretty special. And again, it goes back to all those bricks that were laid before. And I went here. My wife went here. My brother went here. Grove City College is a special place. And it's played good football. I mean, very good football. And in year 3, everything come together. And for our guys to see, we had rattled off 7 straight wins to finish that season, 6 straight PAC wins. So when we said compete for PAC championships, all of a sudden, wow, we're consistently winning games in the PAC. So it made everybody in the community proud for a rich 125-year history to accomplish something for the first time. It gave encouragement to our staff that, hey, we're starting to identify offensively, defensively, what we can be the best at. And for our guys, it showed them, hey, vision, process, love is working. And for that bowl game, that's when we introduced putting bricks down the center of our helmet. It really that's
your decal?
Yeah, so our helmets have bricks actually right down the middle of the helmet. And I think that season solidified to our guys that vision, process, love, brick by brick, we're truly going to own this because we're seeing the impact it's having. And I think that's the biggest thing 2018 did for us to then continue to build on that to get to some pretty special seasons these last 2 years.
Yeah, we're going to delve more into those seasons. But what was the mentality like, Coach? What was the mindset when you guys started 1-3? Did you have doubts? Did your offensive staff have doubts? Did the players have doubts? And how did you attack that? How did you, if you had those doubts, how did you deal with it?
Yeah, no, I'm sure there were. To me, though, again, that's where vision solves everything. When I looked at it, and this was from Pat Williams and studying all of those guys, I said, whoa. My job here, compete for PAC championships, is to lay one brick closer to that. So when you go 1-3 And I'll tell you, our fourth game, we got pounded. So weeks 3 and 4 that year, we're 1-3, and we just lost 2 games. We lost a massive one on the road in week 4 to go 1-3. And I remember going in the locker room and I told the guys, I'm going to spend all weekend staring at the vision. I'm going to look at that. And actually, we had started a freshman quarterback that game. He was effective throwing the deep ball. We were having success with inside zone. And it was actually that next meeting where I said, I think I can see our pathway on offense of what we can be the best at. So it really, I'll tell you this, my favorite phrase is focus on your vision, not your circumstance. What 1-3 did in year 3 was test me to say, am I going to live this out or not? Because the circumstance is it's year 3 and we're still 1-3. But I literally went home that weekend. I stared at the vision, stared at the film, and fortunately started to see, hey, in these 4 games, here's a run scheme that's been working. And we actually maybe could be the best in the PAC at this run scheme. We got a guy who can throw a deep ball as well as anyone. This could be our pathway. But again, I say this again, live in the why, not the what. What the situation is, we're 1-3. But why we're here is to compete for PAC championships, no matter how many bricks it takes to lay. So, Andrew, why are you here at 1-3? Well, to lay another brick towards that vision. And I think those phrases and having a vision and that mindset allowed us then to start to see, hey, this is our pathway to do what we can do better than anyone else in the PAC. So I have to say the biggest thing it did was test whether I was going to live out that phrase I shared in meeting 1 or not. And that's really where I found myself.
Yeah, and actually it's funny, as you're talking, the phrase that kept coming back to me, I can't remember exactly what it is, and you'll correct me. Process on the small picture, not on the big. What was it? Focus on the process of the small steps, something like that.
See a little, see a lot, see nothing. Yes. That one. Yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing. At 1-3, it's easy to see, oh my goodness, it's year 3. No, see a little, Andrew. What's one brick you can learn from this last game, specifically in the PAC, to get closer to this? And we laid a big one and actually ended up winning 7 straight after that. But again, I think that vision is what kept me focused instead of looking at an overwhelming circumstance.
Yeah, I think that in the rebuild process, at least for me, I'm a very emotional person and it's hard. I will get very down and out and start to doubt myself. And, I just sit there and I think I get lost in the big picture. Like, how are we ever going to get where we want to get? And, like you said, you just kind of have to focus on the small things, go back to doing, like you said, one thing better today, lay a brick today, get better. And I love that philosophy. That's so critical, Coach. Let's now obviously not skip, the most important seasons in 19, 20, 21, but then we get to 22 and you guys go 8-3 again. And I believe you lost your bowl game, correct?
No, we won the bowl game that year. So we actually 8-3 and won a bowl game. So it was pretty much mirrored 2018. Yep. And 2021.
But you were despondent or you were discouraged at the end of that season, correct?
Correct. It'd probably be one of the lowest moments in this journey, because in 2018, when we went 8-3 and won that bowl game, the first postseason win in school history, there was celebrations everywhere. I mean, it was just everyone on cloud 9, everyone. In 2022, when we went 8-3, and yet here we are. So this would be now, I'm trying to think, because COVID always throws me for a loop. This is my 6th season now, and now we're still 8-3 winning a bowl game. It's our 4th bowl win in a row. I had so many different, ideas thrown, and here's what we should do, and we got to go a different direction here. I shared this, I think, with you. I had 2, and they were great, well-meaning people, great, that came into my office in the span of one day. One said we should double down in an area that the other said we should completely get rid of and not do at all anymore. So here's what Pat Williams years ago told me. A vision keeps you focused. A vision keeps you fueled. A vision helps you finish. A vision keeps you focused. A vision keeps you fueled. A vision helps finish. And think about our discussion so far. 2016, it kept us focused. 2018, it kept me fueled at 1-3 to figure things out. Well, in 2022, this phrase was everything to me. Answer to the vision, not man's opinion. Andrew, answer to the vision, not man's opinion. And what that meant, it's not that you don't listen to people. Actually, it helps you listen to people. I want to take an input from everybody. I want to hear everybody's voice. However, I will not be a people pleaser. I can't do what everybody wants me to do. Actually, that situation I gave you of two people saying the opposite, I can't do what everyone wants. What I do is I take what they have to say and I hold it to the vision. And I remember in 2022, I was like, all right, what are we going to do? And I just looked at, there was 14 games against top teams in the PAC that we had been 7-7 in the previous couple years. And we saw three huge indicators that led to when we went 7-0 in those games and when we went 0-7. And essentially, we looked at those areas, doubled down in those areas. The next year, we win those areas. In every game, we go 10-0 and win the league. But the key in 2022 was, if I would have abandoned certain areas, there's no way we would have won the conference in 23 and be where we're at today. And the key to me there was, again, vision. Andrew, you have so much data now from these PAC games, specifically against the top teams in this league. And I hold up 4 because at that time there was 4 other teams that were consistently 8 wins or more. And I just stared at, what can we do better than those teams in? And it was the vision, then answering to the vision and not man's opinion, which helped me not get bottled down with kind of a lot of frustration being 8-3. And helped me to stay focused on the right areas to make the right decisions so that we could put it all together in 2023. But yeah, that was probably the toughest moment, honestly, in my 9 to 10 years here, was that 2022 8-3 season.
Yeah, and it's so funny, and maybe we can have a quick dialogue on this. I know we did over the phone, but essentially, I know what I've been told by several successful coaches who have been at the head of turnarounds. They've said that the rebuild process is so much more fun than the end. And I've really struggled with that because I don't know. I don't want the rebuild to be all. And I think there's truth to be had too. You had the same exact record in 2018 that you did in 2022. Extremely different feelings and emotions and realities after each victory and successful season. How do you, I guess, find yourself reinvigorated as you're proceeding on and on? You went 10-0 the following year. Is that it? Have you arrived? Are you done? Do you stop enjoying it? What is it?
No, great. It was funny. Because in 2016, we went 0-10, then 2023, 10-0. And I was asked in 2023, what's my message now? And I remember I answered that question at our media day. I said, well, at 2016, 0-10, my message was focus on your vision, not your circumstance. After going 10-0, my message, focus on your vision, not your circumstance. And that's where, in Pat Williams, honestly, if I look at the top 5 people that changed my wife, I almost said wife because she's probably number 1, but is Pat Williams, who recently passed away, just an incredible man, incredible leader. But he said a vision keeps you fueled. And to me, that has been everything, because it's not about whether everyone's excited in 18 or maybe disappointed in 22, or maybe I'm 0-10 or 10-0. Now that we won the PAC and have data from national opponents, our vision now says compete for PAC and national championships. What gets me fueled every day is getting humbled in the national playoffs this year. And I've watched that game so much. What do we need to do now to be the best at what we do on a national scale? And it was just like being 1-3 in 18. Hey, what's one area? Okay, the deep game, deep ball and inside zone. Hey, this is something I could do better than anyone else in the PAC. Let me double down in it. And right now it's, what can I do better to not have to lose another close game on the last play in the national playoffs? Andrew, focus on the vision. And I think it's a biblical concept, but it's a football, it's everything, is we can't control everybody's emotions around us. We can't make everybody happy. I can't sit there and try to tell everyone, be happy you won a bowl game in 22 because you did in 18. What I can do, though, is be faithful to the vision and to make sure everyone's playing within the vision. Coaches are making decisions within the vision. And if I stay focused on that, I'm doing the best thing for everybody in the program. That whole mindset of focusing on the vision is what keeps me fueled no matter what the mood is. We're excited. Even in the last 2 years, 2023, we were so pumped to be in the national playoffs, win a game, and then lose to the national champs by 1. I'll tell you, this year it's a different mindset that we lost in the playoffs. It's kind of reminiscent to that 2022 disappointment, and I love it. And you know why? Yeah. Because I'm going to take all of what I'm hearing, hold it to the vision, and use it to lay a brick towards now this vision of competing for PAC and national championships. And that's why I owe Pat Williams everything. A vision keeps you fueled, and that's how I've stayed fueled through all this.
That's awesome. Coach, I'm going to just share real quick. I think that it's really important for our leaders to understand that the vision can change and maybe should change as you go along. I remember I got to Troy in 2017, and our league has been together for, I believe, 50 plus years. And at the time I arrived, for about 18 years in a row, one team in particular had won that league, our league. I think 17 or 15 out of the 17 years that I've been there. And on my vision was to win league. And after the first season, I coached against them, and I changed my vision to just win the city championship, which was schools within our city that I felt like, okay, that's attainable. Lo and behold, that was 2017. And then 2023, we actually beat that team, the league champion of, that was so many years, 20 years at that time. And it was the third time they had been beaten in the last 23 years. It's funny because our vision has now changed, and I think it's really critical that your vision has changed, because when you do, and I feel like you will, win a national championship, your vision will most likely change to something like sustain success or build a legacy, and beyond. And I think that that's going to fuel you and your stakeholders, your followers and leaders at the same time, to continue to fight and to continue to get better. And I think that's critical for us to learn from.
Yeah, and I think the reason for that, from our perspective, I think I mentioned it earlier, but I define vision as a clear picture of who I am and the target of who I aim to be. So it's not just my target, it's who I am. So prior to this past year, when I said compete for PAC championships, if there was recruiting decisions, I did not care what anyone else in the country was doing. When it comes to what I do on offense, I could care less if it worked against a top 10 team. And I only made decisions based off what can we do better than the other 10 teams in our league. And that had a huge impact on how we handled recruiting, how we play offense, etc. And it got us to a PAC title. Well, now I have 3 national playoff games where every one of those came to the last play of the game. So I got 2 non-conference games this year. We scheduled 2 top 10 opponents, a team that won the national title in 2023 and a team that's is a household name in Division III football, right? Well, why did we do that? Because the vision tells us we need as much data now against top 10 opponents, because that's what our vision is. So when I say a vision's who I am, the reason why it may need to be updated, like you shared, is because I'm making decisions differently now than I did 4 years ago. And to me, that's why vision, and people may have different words for it. I use vision, but vision, that's why it's everything to me, because it's who I am. It's how I make decisions.
Love that, Coach. We are unfortunately nearing the end of our time, but I have really one question, and then you're going to give some advice to some of our coaches that are trying to turn around programs. But your coaching staff, I know for me, and I hope my coaches are listening to this, because they are, goodness, man, they are everything to me in my program, outside of my wife. And I mean, they are just phenomenal. How has your coaching staff been pivotal in your process of rebuilding Grove City?
Oh, it's been everything. I mean, you definitely have to be blessed along the way by hitting the jackpot. And my first hire was our offensive line coach and recruiting coordinator, who's still with me today. So in your first hire, when you get an unbelievable recruiter who's also an offensive line guy, and I'm an offensive coordinator, so everyone says, you got to find the right O-line guy. So when you start off hitting a home run there, wow, that's a great place to start. That was my first hire. And from there, our staff's amazing. I wish I could talk about each one, but I'd be afraid of missing anyone, and then I'd be here all day. But here's our staff. It's a lot of people who've played here, because Grove City is a very unique and special place. I mean, we are obviously great football, a great academics, faith-based school. I mean, there's a lot of things where, when you have coaches who played here, they just know why Grove City's so special. And then, to get guys who are extremely successful. I mean, I have multiple former head coaches on my staff right now, guys, even high school coaches locally that were head coaches, very successful, that there's just so much wisdom there, and they've been in the seat. So when I think about building a staff, 3 things I mentioned there. Number one, you got to be blessed and get lucky. Like I said, my first hire, that just was a perfect fit. There is that element. But also people who've played here that are all in, former high school head coaches, or just head coaches or college football coaches in general with a ton of experience. And the biggest recommendation I could give anyone in building a staff, we have a very clear vision. So when I'm looking to hire someone, I look at those 4 areas. Every question I ask in an interview, I categorize in each of those 4 areas. And I'm trying to find someone who truly fits our vision. And there's many great coaches. Some might not fit your vision, and that's okay. But if we're not, how do I keep from having issues later? Be upfront saying, this is who we are from the very beginning. Are you on board with this? And to me, that has been key in building a staff. And I've just been very blessed. We just have a great staff from top to bottom. We really do.
I love that, Coach. Well, we're going to end our session here with really you imparting, if you have any word or piece of advice to coach that's a young coach, first-time head coach that's taking over a program, or a seasoned veteran that is going into a situation and they're taking it over. What's one piece of advice that you would give a head coach as he's doing so, or even a leader of an organization?
Yeah, I would say if you're going to lead others, it should be the overflow of who you are. That's how you should lead. When you get in front of a team and say, these are our core values, like vision, process, love, they'll know if it's not something you're truly passionate about, or if you just took it. It should be who you are. What are you passionate about? Well, what gets you going? And now just share that with others. Because what I said at the beginning, view yourself as a leader, prepare to be a leader when a leadership opportunity comes, take it. My faith is everything to me. And I grew up a pastor's kid. My brother played here. Side note, pretty cool. I got to call the plays to get my brother kicked out of the record books because he had the receiving record here. But in my faith journey, having a vision for my faith, letting that drive the process of what I did, and then understanding why I need others in that walk. I was all about vision, process, love long before 2016. So when I got the opportunity, because I always told you get one shot to be a head coach. That's what I was told. And I know it's not always the case, but I said, look, if we're going to do this, I'm just going to do it as an overflow of what I'm doing in my personal life. In my personal life, I have a vision for my life personally. I let that vision drive what I do each day, and I make sure that there's other people holding me accountable to that vision. So then when I got to stand in front of 100 people, when I talked about vision, process, love, all I did was share what I'm doing every day in my personal life already. So I think the biggest advice I could give for anybody is just know who you are as a person. Know who you are and what drives you, and then just do that. Not wrong, just different, meaning not everybody's going to do it the same way. Don't look how someone else is doing it and thinking, I got to do it that way. I think the most authentic and powerful thing you can do is know what you believe in, and then just lead out of that, lead out of overflow. And that's the best advice I could give to anybody.
I love that, Coach. And you just got to have a wife like mine who, whenever we're in conflict, she'll remind me of our core values. She'll be like, are you operating based upon your core values? Like,
I love it.
No.
I love it. Because I live off catchy little phrases, like 4-second phrases, be where your feet are, don't sacrifice what you want most for what you want now. So I'll go home and maybe I'll go get dessert, and we were going to go out as a family at night. My wife will tell me, hey, don't sacrifice what you want most for what you want now. She'll use the phrases on me. So I love it. That's what you need. And then my wife's the best. So
it's great, Coach. I absolutely loved our time together. You bring a very, very unique perspective to turning around a program. And I think it's really the vision component, Coach, is so compelling. So once again, thank you so much for being on. I wish you nothing but the best of luck, and I can't wait to see what Grove City does in the future here.
I appreciate that. An honor to be with you, and just appreciate the opportunity to share.
Excellent, Coach. Go ahead and stay on.
That's a wrap for this episode of the Turnaround Series presented by CoachTube. Big thanks to our guests for sharing their insight on what it takes to rebuild a program and create a winning culture. Remember, if you're working to turn things around, having proven strategies and the right resources is a game changer. That's where CoachTube comes in. It's a technology platform designed to connect you with on-demand courses from top coaches, state associations, and charitable organizations. So keep learning, keep growing, and keep leading your team to success. And if you're a coach with knowledge to share, CoachTube makes it easy to create and distribute your own training content. Teach what you know, help other coaches, and build your brand. Visit CoachTube.com to explore courses or reach out to me, Keith, at CoachTube if you're ready to share your expertise. Thanks for listening. Be sure to subscribe and join us next time for more insights from the best in the game.